The Upper Lesser Narcissist. This video continues the series in examining the various fuel matrices of narcissists. Continuing with the lesser school of narcissist, this video deals with the Upper Lesser Narcissist, the ULN, which is the final division of the lesser school of narcissism. The Upper Lesser Narcissist is an interesting division. Whilst in the lesser category because of the use of aggression, usually physically and sexually, but also having a low control threshold, the upper lesser narcissist is way above the lower lesser and middle lesser in terms of cognitive function. Indeed, his cognitive function would be better than that of a lower mid-ranger, and in some instances a middle mid-ranger. However, the use of violence, aggression, and his low control threshold means that he very much belongs in the lesser school. The upper lesser narcissist is an individual who is not academically bright and may well have left formal education with little to show for it. He is, however, street smart, savvy, and wily. The upper lesser narcissist makes an effective businessman. He will not have the polished charm of the greater or the cool considered intellect of the higher reaches of the mid-ranger, but he has a degree of charisma and is best considered as a rough diamond. He will not be a captain of industry by any stretch of the imagination, nor will he be an academic or professional, but he is more likely to run his own small or medium-sized enterprise. He is intolerant, driven, and bullying, but this achieves him much success, and he may be rather well off. He will be disliked by those who hold positions in society, since he lacks the finesse and good manners associated with education and good breeding, but his money remains good for many occasions, and therefore he will be tolerated, although talked about behind his back, at the golf club, for instance. He regards himself as well regarded by everybody in his community, unable to detect the sneers and down-the-nose looks he receives at his crass behaviour as a consequence of his inability to empathise. He is direct, to the point, and forthright. He is a serial embellisher, or, to put more crudely, a well-known bullshitter. He stiffs people in business, reneges on arrangements, but considers all of this part and parcel of the cut and thrust of dynamic business. Of all of the lesser narcissists, the upper lesser has a wider fuel matrix. A. He is far less likely to have a primary source who is a family member. He will more likely have an intimate partner primary source, and he will use his financial resources to assist him in luring in a suitable individual to become the intimate partner primary source. There is a risk that the upper lesser is likely to snare a lesser or mid-range narcissist himself, failing to recognize them. He will rely heavily on the intimate partner primary source because ultimately he is a lesser narcissist and will ensure that this person stays in place through a combination of intimidation, the threat of financial ruin, and violence of a physical and or sexual nature. B. In terms of familial secondary sources, the upper lesser will have a wider number of those sources than the lower lesser or the middle lesser, but there will be other family members who have fallen foul of his temper and intolerance, and they will remain as scapegoats. He will relish the opportunity to draw negative fuel from these individuals, and, rather than ignore them, he will actively invite them to family events, which he hosts purely for the purposes of showing them up and making them a scapegoat. They refuse invitations at their peril. C. With regard to work secondary sources, if the upper lesser is employed, he will have secured a low management position of some description and will operate through a combination of thinking he is one of the gang, but then upbraiding people when his fury is ignited. This makes for a difficult environment for those who work with him. His degree of cunning also means that he will be difficult to usurp. If, which is more likely, he has his own business, then he will make great play regarding his dozen or so employees as the family, and he will draw fuel from them repeatedly, but always through the unequal relationship that exists since he is the boss. D. The upper lesser narcissist has a social network of both inner and outer circle friends. The lower lesser and the middle lesser will only have inner circle friends. The upper lesser will use his better financial position and perceived standing in the community to generate more social connections through neighbours, members of clubs and such like, and therefore will have a social secondary source circle, both inner and outer circle, of between a dozen and 2 dozen people. He is swift to discard those he regards as unworthy to remain inert, and finds new recruits with comparative ease. The upper lesser will have one or more intimate partner secondary sources, especially if he is somatic, as again his financial clout will assist him with seduction. He regards himself as attractive and irresistible, and since he possesses a higher energy level than the lower lesser and the middle lesser, he will engage in more social activities, and therefore has more hunting grounds for the acquisition of an intimate partner secondary source or sources when the primary source is being devalued. F. With the increased financial clout and his perceived role as community hero, the upper lesser will engage with many tertiary sources. He will largely appear favourable to them, as he has some regard for maintaining a facade, but given his lesser status, aggression and low control threshold, he will also relish a degree of notoriety, so that people are wary of getting on his wrong side. He will often lash out at tertiary sources, given his inability to control his ignited fury.